Let's cut right to the chase. When did you start having some suspicions that something strange was up during the pandemic?
Well, to be honest, I think from the very start, I gradually began to see through the narrative, and it wasn't what they were showing us on telly. And it was a number of things. One of the main things was in March of 2020, I took a phone call from a guy whose name was John, funny enough. And he said, I work for a government-sponsored company. And he said, my job is to ring all of the undertakers as part of the pandemic response. And I was like, fine, what do you need to know? You know, you want to help. I would say to him, I picked up someone from a local care home. It's a big facility, nearly 100 beds in there. And there was no doctor present. There was no COVID test done. So this guy wasn't COVID. I spoke to the staff there who confirmed this was an onset dementia patient. Mm-hmm. He'd been there 5 years. Straight away, this guy would openly admit he had to record him as a COVID death. And so from that point forward, everyone that passed in that facility was put down as a COVID death. None of them died from COVID. But so what that meant was that there were no more deaths than normal, but there were loads of COVID deaths. The vaccines were never about COVID. COVID was about the vaccines. So they put down so many COVID deaths that by 2021, everyone was saying, save me. Okay, yes. And then the moment they had these jabs, then people started dying straight away. Yeah, it was 300% increase from, they started vaccinating locally here on January the 6th, and the death rate went through the roof straight away, and they called it the second wave, and it wasn't. It was just people that were being vaccinated were dying almost instantly. And as they went down the age groups, because they started off here by kind of dangling a carrot and saying only the most vulnerable need to be vaccinated, then only the over 70s and only over 60s, then over 50s, then, well, if you're in your 40s, and then the over 30s, and they went down the list. And as they went down the list, that perfectly correlated with who was dying. That age group were the ones dropping down dead from COVID. And it wasn't COVID, it was vaccine damage. We had a young lad of 30 in. He was in really good condition, bless him. We've all been 30 once. He was in his prime. And we were asked, because he was young and he had a big social circle, can you embalm him? A lot of people want to come and see him. Not a problem. And his arteries were totally blocked. So my embalmer has grabbed his tweezers and gone to pull the obstruction out, and pulled and pulled and pulled, and pulled a complete white, fibrous calamari type clot that ran the full length of his leg, from the top of his leg down to his ankle. I know what is normal and what isn't. And I might not know the Latin phrase for every nerve and fiber, but I could look him, I know my way around the body. It wasn't even like a subtle on the spectrum of anything I would expect to see. Mold spores might grow as you start to break down and we return back to the earth from whence we came. That's a natural process. White rubber inside your arteries isn't, and I'd never seen it prior to the vaccine rollout. I can see a real biblical crime going on here, and people are dying full of calamari type clots that are not natural. I've never seen them. A growing number of people are also saying the same thing since I've spoken out. Now, is that mass hysteria, or is there really substance to that? And what's more troubling is not the fact I'm finding it, but it's the reaction of the people that are actually paid to protect us. They're poo-pooing it and ignoring it, and it is there. I can show you countless tubes of it, and evidence, physical evidence, that they won't even talk about. It's also reflected in the number of excess deaths that are happening. You know, the under 14s, it's up about 30%. Yes. It's undeniable, and these people are still poo-pooing it. Now, I've got two avenues to go down. Either say nothing and just carry on taking the money, or speak out, because I actually would like a future for my kids. Right. And I can see what they're doing. And I've been with a growing number of people that I think more and more people are seeing it as what are we going to do about it? Because here, what could we possibly do except withdraw our consent and turn our backs on them? I think that's what it's going to be.
Now, for the people that you say poo-poo it, and as the evidence mounts up and gets bigger and bigger, are they deluding themselves, or are some of them actually so evil that they do know what's going on?
There are different people with different fingers in different pies.
Yeah.
Money was the main driver for this initially. So to give you an idea, doctors here were given £10 a vaccine, up to a maximum of 100 vaccines a day before they were taxed. So £1,000 a day, tax-free, 5,000 British pounds a week, tax-free. So they were chasing that. The pharmaceutical companies are offering big discounts on drugs if they're taking things like midazolam, remdesivir. And of course, these people, they're following government guidelines. They're only doing what they're told to do. There's a pandemic on, and we've got a chance to earn a load of money.
Yes.
To get people to believe that the people in society that we trust the most are actually orchestrating a cult is very difficult to convince people of that.
A cult.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that is the case. And Agenda 2030 is very, very real. I've had doctors in here who have openly admitted to me, a number of doctors, not one, not two, a dozen GPs have come in here doing cremation paperwork. I've kind of said, well, doctor, I said, are you seeing an increase in death rate in vaccine recipients? And they all have the same look, and that look is universal. They go like that because they're horrified that you know.
Yep.
And then they look at the floor. Every one of them does exactly the same look because they know. The last one was a female GP who was in here, and she said to me, have you been busy? And that was all I needed. I said, so, well, of course I have. I said, we've got loads of vaccine recipients dying, haven't we? She went, yes, what a terrible world. That was her response, was, it's a terrible world. But it's a terrible world that you're making happen. You know, it's too late. These people have been vaccinated now. They're ticking time bombs.